probably the worst thing that you can see on TV when watching a World Cup match is a practically empty stadium. It makes the whole event seem kind of like a joke. Copa America was fun, but it was also a total mess in a lot of different aspects. And the question is the US going to be ready to host the World Cup in 2 years? Because this was kind of a disaster. Well, I think there's reasons to be optimistic, but also there's reason for concern. So let's go over it. Welcome to Campfire Football. I'm Sebastian North. The final of Copa America really did crescendo in exactly the wrong way. The match itself was not really good. The team that had performed best in the tournament in Colombia ended up losing, and Messi barely played because he got injured early and was sobbing on the touchline. It was quite a sight. But really it was what happened before the match off the pitch that was such a problem. The stadium got totally flooded with people who did not have tickets, and we saw scenes like this one. I mean, I have questions. Like, do one of these people actually have like blueprints of the stadium and they like plan some kind of like heist to get into the concourse through the vents? If not, they're morons, because who the hell knows where you're going? I mean, that clip is just insane, but it was off the back of so many other things that happened throughout the tournament.
It's just the standard at which you run a professional tournament, right? I think needs to be much, much better. Much, much better.
From the pitches being absolutely awful to some of the training conditions that some teams had to deal with. Then you had the insane crowd trouble during the Colombia-Uruguay match. Really poor officiating in many of the matches, most notably the USA-Uruguay game, where a referee in his 7th game in charge goes ahead and calls a foul, pulls his yellow card out, and decides, oh no, we can play on, when Uruguay decided to play the ball quickly. You were just like, what? I've never seen this before. A lot of the games became like a bar fight where there were just too many fouls. The score lines were low. The football wasn't good. Marcelo Bielsa unloading entirely on the organizers of the competition in an epic rant.
Doing this press conference is to say that the pitch is great, and you see that the joints are a disaster, and you say that the training session is perfect, and in Bolivia couldn't train. And I have all the pictures that show that this is a whole lie.
On top of that, the crowds, that was a concern. I went to go see 2 matches in Las Vegas. I saw Ecuador versus Jamaica and Brazil versus Paraguay. Here's one of my videos.
Okay, mildly concerning. This is Copa America here in the United States. This is Ecuador, Jamaica. You understand the concern. There are not a lot of people here. Brazil will play here in 2 days. We'll see how packed it is, but this is appalling for what it should be. Concerns for next summer's Club World Cup, and especially the World Cup in 2 years. If this is what it looks like, it ain't gonna be a good thing.
Now, I had tickets for that game up in the 3rd deck, but that wasn't even open. So we had to just go find seats wherever, which was just kind of weird. No one had any kind of plan for us. But the Brazil game was a substantially better crowd. Now, you expect this. Argentina always played in front of full crowds. Colombia, those people show up. But it was Ecuador, Jamaica that was practically empty, and it makes me worry a lot for what we're going to see in 2 years. To me, this is one of actually the main points of contention, the stadium selection for the 2026 World Cup. So let me paint a little picture for you. Angola qualify for the World Cup, and they are in the same group as Slovakia. Now, these 2 teams are slated to play at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, where I was, 65,000-seater stadium. Are you telling me that's going to be full or even remotely close? I really don't think so. I don't see it. And probably the worst thing that you can see on TV when watching a World Cup match is a practically empty stadium. It makes the whole event seem kind of like a joke. If you watch the Euros, you got to see a stark contrast from Copa America, where all of the stadiums were completely full, all the way to the rafters, full, and the crowds were fantastic. The Turks were probably the best, but you could sense the atmosphere on TV, and it made you really want to be at some of these games. Part of the reason was these are stadiums of 30 to 50,000 seats. The vast majority of the problems we saw during Copa America, they were there because CONMEBOL did a crap job of organizing, frankly, and FIFA, they will do a lot better. They have the consistent track record of putting on much better events. And so I think 90% of the problems we saw at Copa America, we will not have to worry about for 2026. But the stadiums, they're a problem. I mean, you also have to take into account the fact that the United States is expensive. I mean, going to Vegas for, say, a week to see 2 games, It costs a lot of money. And so how many people are going to actually go and shell out this kind of cash to see a group stage match that may not matter at all? Fortunately, next year FIFA will get their audition. In the summer of 2025, there will be the first FIFA Club World Cup, 32 teams, all the biggest ones from around the world. And so this is where we're going to see how well they can organize an event like this and fill stadiums that are frankly way too big for certain football teams. Soccer teams, sorry. They're football stadiums, but they're soccer teams going in them. You get my drift. But the question remains, if they're two low profile teams, shouldn't you just put them in like Dick's Sporting Goods Park that fits 20,000 and that way you'll actually get a good atmosphere instead of putting them at Arrowhead where everyone's going to look around and go, that's a lot of red chairs. I'm just very curious to see how FIFA approaches this over the coming year because they just got a window into how not to host an event in the United States. How are they going to do this big, broadened 48-team World Cup and not have a handful of matches that are such big duds that it completely destroys the vibe of the World Cup in some of those games? I guess we'll see. We'll have to keep an eye on it. Either way, thanks for stopping by. I'm Sebastian North. This is Campfire Football. Take it easy.